Good morning everyone. Alright, so this morning we have an instrument cluster. This is from a BMW E90 in for testing and repair. Now this cluster looks like this, and yes, we've got some new tools that are rocked up. We'll do some reviews on later. And what's happening with this cluster is it's not powering on at all, so there's nothing coming from the cluster. The wiring to it's been tested good. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some diagrams up, we're going to pin it out on the bench, and then we're going to start doing some voltage measurements. Alright, so our board is hooked up. I've hooked power up to it on the bench, so we've got our breakout box hooked up to this cluster. And what I'm going to show everyone is I'm just going to stick my lead into the signal ground on the breakout box, and we're going to touch the meter to our power feed, so our main 12 volt pin. As you can see, we've got 12 volts at this cluster. Now, next thing, what happens on most of this is this will go through the power supply circuit, so it'll go through this main capacitor here, as you can see, 12 volts on that, and it gets fed all across the board to different points. Now, a good test point to check for if it is going through the 5 volt regulator or the voltage regulator. So what will happen is we don't have 12 volts everywhere on this board. This will get stepped down to 5 volts or 3 volts or whatever these components work on. Now, this 350 EEPROM up here is the main EEPROM that controls the mileage and all the VIN data, etc. So this will get fed 5 volts. So quick way to check if our step down voltage input or wherever the voltage gets drawn down on this board is up on this pin of this EEPROM, and as you can see, if I touch it properly, we've got a good 5 volts there. So we know that we haven't got a dead voltage regulator or whatever's controlling our voltage to drop down. Next thing I might do is I'm going to get the thermal camera out. We're going to see if anything's heating up on this board. Alright, so as you can see, we've got the thermal camera hooked up. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to see it, but right under that EEPROM there's a hot spot, and there's a couple of hot spots there because there's a few components there, but there's one that's a lot hotter than the others. Where are we? See if I can show it a bit better. Right there. So that component actually looks to be one of those little capacitors there, right under there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test them quickly with the meter, see if we've got a dead short on it. If we do, we're going to whip it off and stick another one on there. Alright, and we've actually got a short on this cap, so I've got 5 volts on either side of it. This is the one that looked to be getting hot as well, so I'm going to whip this off quickly and replace it with one just off a scrap board. And we're going to hook it up and see what happens. Alright, and there we go, we've got a new cap on there. It's bloody hard to see. Turn the light back on. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to plug the LCD in with the little switch so we can see if we can light it up. Now, we won't be able to communicate with it because it needs a wake up signal from a CAS module, but we will be able to press through the display buttons and we'll have LEDs lit up and everything there. Alright, moment of truth. We're going to flip our power supply on, and I think I saw something there. We might turn our lights off. Hey, there we go. So we've got 117,000 Ks on this cluster, and she is back to life. Now, I don't know if I can flip through any more screens there or anything. No, that's it. But we've got signs of life now. We had a very shorted small cap on the back there that was pulling down that 5 volt side by the looks of it. Other than that, this is probably all good to go. So the next thing I'm going to do is get a read from this cluster on the bench. We're going to zero this out because this is a donor cluster, and then what will happen is as soon as this gets plugged into the vehicle, it'll take the mileage from the CAS module in that vehicle. So BMW, the mileage will be stored in 2 spots, and when this cluster gets plugged into another vehicle, it'll just adapt the mileage straight over from it.